Hey everyone, it's Friday, so let's get into this week's DIY bucket. Lots of goodies in here this week. We're kind of doing some berry colors, lots of spring fun stuff. We got some hellebores in here, some gorgeous hydrangea, so let's get to it. We are using a 6.5 inch wide by 6 inch high pot. It's a plant pot, so it's great because you can reuse it for a 6 inch size plant. And we're gonna use chicken wire. So I'm just gonna fold it over like I always do, tucking those sides in, and then I'm gonna fold it over itself and place that down into the container. So since this container is so wide, I'm just gonna spread it out in there so that there's plenty of room to hold all of the stuff. So let me scoot it, move it. All right, so we're all good there. Then we're gonna start with our hydrangea. So we have these awesome antique hydrangea. They're blue antique hydrangea. Give it a trim on an angle. Get rid of all of the knobs on the stem so it's easy to place into your arrangement, and go right in there, cover about half of the top of your container. Got another one in there. Do the same thing on the other side. Trim it, clean the stems, and go right on in there. You don't have to cover the entire top because we have lots of greens and things to add in here as well. So we should be good for coverage. Pick off any of the little brown petals, spread out the lateral blooms, get some good coverage, a little bit of holes on the side here, and that's where our greens are gonna go. So the first greens that we're going to use are these awesome umbrella fern. So I like to use these folded in half and tucked in. That's gonna take up these two sides here in between the hydrangea. You can always separate them in between here as well if the pieces are too long, and then you can use them individually in your arrangement, but this is easier, so I'm just gonna go ahead and give that a trim, take off some of these bottom greens. They don't go into my container, and just kind of spread it out like so. You want it to go in between your hydrangea, but you mostly want it to fill these holes and gaps on the side. Same thing on this side. I'm gonna trim it, fold it, and tuck it right in between the greens. Spread it out in between my blooms. Then I've got these two spots of the umbrella fern coming out from the center. Okay, doesn't have to be equal. We can go a little asymmetrical on it. It's totally cool. All right, next we have, this is really ruscus. We use this a lot here because it's got a great linear shape. It's long lasting. I'm gonna strip off some of these bottom leaves, give it a trim so that it is the amount of green I want to see coming out of my arrangement. I'm gonna go opposite way on this one and tuck them in through the hydrangea into the chicken wire. There we go. You should have 5 of these. Now give it a particularly long piece. You can cut it so that the you can cut it like here, for instance, and then you can have 2 placements if you'd like, just to get as much bang for your buck out of each stem as you can. And starting to kind of make it a little bit more round, even though it is a little bit asymmetrical. That's okay, it's good. All right, we'll go right here. All right, so a nice fill going on. Next up, there we go, all the way around. Next up, we're gonna do our roses. Our roses are Felicity roses. So they have a nice dense petal count. They have a kind of delicate leaf, so you don't wanna manhandle them, just be gentle with them. Only take off the 2 or 3 outside petals and give it a little roll so it's nice and open. And then you can place that right into your arrangement so it sits right there. Okay. Get all of these leaves off of the stem, the thorns off. Give it a little blow. Give it a little roll. Not too aggressive or your petals will fly off. I'm gonna try to keep those on the flower if we can. Go here, 1, 2, and go in here. There we go. And these will continue to open in your arrangement, so give them plenty of space. You should have 6 of these in your bucket, and I'm placing them pretty evenly all around my arrangement. Just so they sit above the level of the hydrangea, so they can continue to open. Tuck them too far in there, or it'll keep them from opening all the way. Also, you don't get to see as much of the texture in your arrangement. It'll all be kind of one texture. You want to have some things coming out a little bit, you want to have some things going in a little bit, so you see the color at different levels in the arrangement. Okay, I got 5 around the outside here, and do 1 somewhat in the center. Okay, there we are. And adjust as we go. That one might be a little bit high. You don't want the greens to overrun your arrangement, so make sure you're adjusting as you go. There we go. Make sure everything is coming out from the center radially. You don't want anything crisscrossing underneath. All right, so we got this going on. Now we're gonna do some hyacinth. Pull out that blue color in the hydrangea. Now, when I use hyacinth, I take all of the greens off unless I'm using it in a vase by itself, just because it makes it very slippery in the vase, and also it can be very difficult to get these in without them pulling off from the stem. Also, they tend to make the water a little bit dirty, so I am going to clean the stem first before I put them in. You should have 3 of these in your bucket. And for these, you really want to get the bottom of the blooms all the way down to your hydrangea. If you have it sticking out from the hydrangea, it's just gonna like continue to grow and then it'll fall over and flop. So you need to get a little bit of support from the hydrangea so that holds it where it goes. And as it grows, then it'll grow up and out of the arrangement rather than flopping over or having the stem break. So you do not want that. So nice and clean, and we're going in 3 points. So this way, it's kind of in a triangle, a loose triangle. So you see it all the way through the arrangement. Then we have some stock. So this is also a similar shape to this. Now, the end is a little bit leggy to me, and I don't really love that. So I am just gonna go ahead and take that tip right off so that we still have this nice vertical placement of blooms, but we don't have these long ends. Now, if your stock is a little bit fuller to the tip, then you can just use that as is. You don't have to trim it off. And if you like the way that it looks, that like longer sort of whimsical garden look, you can go ahead and leave it on. You know, something like this, it's very pretty. These will continue to bloom. Unfortunately, at the rate that these bloom, these kind of shed off. So you have to kind of make a decision like where you want to use it in your arrangement. Do you want to see all of this, or do you want to trim it off and just use it as the blooms at the base? I have 5 of these in there. So I'm gonna go ahead, once I've started, I'm just gonna trim them all off. So I'm just working with these blooms instead. And you wanna make sure that you're, again, cleaning your stems so that it's not difficult to get it out of your chicken wire as I'm finding now. Pull that out, all right? Yeah, trimming those stems, they're nice and clean. You know, little buds and bits off the sides. And then when you place it into your arrangement, you know, poke around, get it where you want it, but don't have it touching another flower. You wanna give everything space in the arrangement. You don't want anything to be taking up the same space as another flower, because then it's kind of like, why bother using both of them? So you wanna have space for all of your flowers to be seen in your arrangement. So make sure they all have room. And you can, the nice thing about the chicken wire too is that you can kind of jog them out a little bit if you need to. So get them in where you want them to be, and then you can kind of pull them out a little bit so that they land where you want them. So 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna go one under here, because I don't have any peach over here yet. And I'm gonna do one back over here, I think, just to get that in there. And then if you trim the tops off too, you just wanna make sure you're trimming it close to where a bloom comes off from it so that you don't see that little nub in there when you place it. All right, so we got this guy in here, this guy, all right, as we go. All right, next, let's get into, we have these carnations. I know, everyone's like, carnations, but they're the prettiest color. And they really go with the hellebores that are coming out of the bucket soon as well. Now here's something fun that you can do with your carnations. We do it here at the shop a bunch. Now, some people love carnations. I love carnations. I think they just come in so many cool varieties and colors. And they have a nice fragrance and they last forever, and like, what's not to love? You do have to be careful with these stems. You just want to get all of these little bits off the side because they will get underneath your chicken wire and pull the whole thing out. So make sure you get nice and clean, pull all these off, trim it down. And then if it's a tight carnation, none of the ones in your buckets this week should be, but you want to squeeze underneath where the petals come out and kind of roll it in your hands and then fluff it. And that'll make it open up a little bit bigger for you. The other thing that you can do is you can pick the centers out to make it look like a different flower. So sometimes we'll do that here so it kind of looks like, I mean, it's not fooling anyone. Everyone knows it's not losing at this, but it gives it a really interesting texture if you take the centers out, and you end up with this cool, different look. You can see the little middles coming out. little bits off. There we go. It is kind of fun actually pulling them out too. Not gonna lie. All right, so then you have this cool little carnation with a little middle in it. I'm gonna trim on an angle, tuck that into our arrangement, kind of let it live in there. I got 3 of these in our bucket, so I fluff it. If you want to pull out the middles, you can. If you don't want to pull out the middles, just leave them alone. It is a really pretty texture just as is. And since I started with one, I might as well just do all 3 of them. So it's not like, why does this one have its middle fall out? They'll all be the same. And usually when I do this, I'll let them come out of the arrangement a little bit too, so you can see the side of the carnation, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'm gonna get this guy in over here, remembering to clean all of my stems. Tuck that in there, 1, 2, and I got a 3rd one over here, so you can see them all around. Okay. Stems are clean and into the vase. Okay, position as we go. With these really cool hellebores in here. Now these are great because they are on the way to drying, so you can see, oh, oops, where's that falling there? So you can see that these seed pods are starting to develop. So they actually last pretty long instead of wilting. Sometimes when you cut them too early and they still have the pollen showing, they just wilt immediately. One trick that we learned here, it works sometimes, not all the time, when they're a little bit newer, is you take your a knife or your scissor and you're gonna go down, oops, trying to cut myself, the stem like this, just kind of make a slit in it, a little bit of the way in there, and that just lets it drink up a little bit more water. So you can do that if you're concerned. Sometimes if you're cutting them out of your garden, you know, and they're a little on the young side, they haven't matured to have that seed pod yet, you want to go ahead and do that. That'll make it last a little bit longer. You can use it as a full stem, or you can break it into smaller ones. I'm going to break it into 2 smaller ones and take this piece off. As long as it touches the water, we're good to go. And I love that it has this little bit of foliage on it too, because it just makes it look so like fresh. And then for this one, you can really use it just as a full thing, or you can pull this little guy off and just use this as a stem, however you like. You can press these, they dry nicely. Very cool. We'll use these sometimes in like our wearable flowers. Once they start to dry a little bit and they have the seed pods showing, you can cut them off flush and use them glued into floral bracelets, and they hold up pretty nice. So this is kind of all one unit, so I'm gonna go ahead and use it as one thing. Take off some of these leaves here because I don't want those to go underneath. I'm just gonna tuck that in there. So now we've got hellebores at 3 points that you can see. It's very nice. There we go. Pulls in this mauve color. And then we have some pink ranunculus, nice hot pink color. I'm gonna tuck those in, but I want those to float a little bit. So now we're starting to pull in that color from the carnations. Very similar. We're gonna give them a little bit of a blow so they start to open. I'm gonna tuck these down into our arrangement. Some of them, again, you want some of them to go in the arrangement a little bit further so there's stuff in front of them. You want some of them to come out of the arrangement so that not everything is in at that same level. So it gives you a little bit of movement and interest. You don't want it to be a boring arrangement. So I lost the petal there. I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna take this little guy off because he's gonna get in the way. Feel free if any of the little buds or anything around the outside are long enough, this one's not, but if it's long enough, you could use it in the arrangement too. It's just another little textural element, which is cool. Of course, you wanna get all these grains off. Give it a little blow. Make sure everybody's in our vases. Tuck that one in a little, pull that one out a little. I feel like I need something over here because I don't have any hot pink going on, so I'm gonna tuck this guy. So he's sitting on top of this peach stalk. We got a lot of peach going on right here. So I'm gonna pull this, put that in back there. See that? And then we have some Scabiosa. Again, pulling in some of these like deeper wine colors. They come with this little straw on here. If you're using them tucked in tight to your arrangement, you can go ahead and keep these on, or you can pull them down a little bit. So that they're hidden in the arrangement. But these are pretty sturdy, so you really don't need them. And plus it'll allow you to have them coming out farther so you can actually see that stem rather than having to hide it all the way down in it. So I'm gonna tuck one of these guys in over here because I'm really liking that color. Yes, okay. Put one of these guys in. So the straws also, they have like a little slit in the side. So if it's not coming off or you're worried about breaking it, make sure you get your fingernail under there and then you can open up the straw and pull it off of your stem. Here. These also have like really cool greens on them and bring the greenery up into the arrangement without having to use too much foliage, which is always good. And same, I'm gonna put one over here, and I'll put one over here. Since these are kind of in that same color family with the carnations and the ranunculus, you're gonna move everything around so it's pretty evenly dispersed, so you don't end up with like a big block of one color anywhere. So move the greens around a little, tuck everybody in. It's looking good. All right, so here we go. The only thing that's really bugging me is in this guy. He's a little bit too long. I'll trim that a little bit and go right back into that same spot because I was liking the green there. It's just sticking out too far. Okay, and then give it a spin. Move everybody around, and there we have it. Get all this trash out of the way. You can see it. Here we go. Got all the cool berry colors, nice jammy goodness for the weekend. Make sure everybody is in water, and yeah, good to go. Feel free to drop any questions or comments in the comments, and also, you know, if you could reach out to us on our Instagram as well, send us pictures of your work at home. We'd love to see it. Tag us if you're into the DIY, if you got this week's bucket, if you made this arrangement. We love to see it, and we love to hear suggestions for other flowers you might want to work with, or different textures or styles that you might want to see as well. So let us know, and we will see you next week.